Rome too was suffering from a fatal disease: cultural decay. It was an erosion of traditional Roman values that would force many to turn to foreign cults for their salvation and question their allegiance to Rome. The Roman Empire is as famous for its vices as it is for its virtues. Corrupted by wealth and power, Rome's legacy was tainted by images of indulgence and imperial excess. The Emperor Commodus epitomized the decay. His arrogance would force everyone to question their allegiance to Rome. Commodus succeeded his father Marcus Aurelius in 180 AD. Traumatized by an early attempt on his life, Commodus shunned all public appearances and left Rome in the hands of his closest advisors. As they terrorized Rome, Commodus amused himself in the palace. It was a lifestyle funded by corruption and extortion. Resentment festered throughout the empire. In 190 AD, the poor rioted. They thought Commodus had deliberately hoarded grain to inflate its price and increase his profits. After 9 years as a recluse, the emperor was forced to play a more public role. The results were disastrous. He demanded he be made a living god. He took the title Hercules and appeared in a lion's skin, wielding a club on all public occasions. When a huge fire consumed Rome in 191 AD, Commodus outdid himself. He proposed the rest of the city be destroyed and an entirely new one rebuilt in his honor. But first, Commodus chose Rome's most famous landmark for his ultimate act of indulgence. On November 17th, 192 AD, people flocked to the Colosseum. Something truly shocking was on the program. That afternoon, the slaves and criminals who normally fought in the arena were joined by someone very special. For the first time in Roman history, an emperor was appearing in public as a gladiator. Commodus may have won that day, but his victory was short-lived.
Commodus was assassinated on December the 31st, on New Year's Eve, because next day he planned to be inaugurated as consul, dressed up as a gladiator. And that was such an affront. It's as though the American president attended inauguration dressed in American football kit. It was a complete insult to the total political way of life.
The assassination of Commodus wasn't the answer, for Rome's problems lay deeper still, in the very foundation of Roman society. The rich lived lives of gaudy luxury. Their houses were spacious and ornate, their gardens lush, their lifestyles lavish. For most Romans, a lifestyle of luxury and decadence was a very distant dream. The gap between wealthy and poor was 10 times worse than today. 95% of the population struggled beneath the poverty line. They lived in dark, fire-trapped tenements, entire families packed into a single room. The child mortality rate was 50%. Typhoid and diphtheria were constant threats. Equally claustrophobic was a woman's place in Roman society. Women were considered biologically and morally inferior to men. They couldn't vote, buy property, or choose who they married. Their fathers and husbands had legal and financial control over them most of their lives. Rome was built on a rigid social hierarchy. At the height of her power, 1 in every 3 people in Italy was a slave. And it was their sweat and their labor that gave Roman cities their fabled wealth and splendor. At the heart of Roman culture lay a tragic flaw. A social order that tolerated excess for the few and oppression for the many. There was one ideal that made everyone proud to be Roman. An ideal as old as Rome itself. A commitment to cultural diversity.
Roman society was always enormously open. There's a wonderful story about Romulus, who, when he goes to found Rome, calls upon people to come and live in the city. And the passage sounds just like the Statue of Liberty, you know, everyone come. Let me take your outsiders and your poor.
By the 3rd century AD, Rome's immigrant spirit applied to everyone, even emperors. Septimius Severus succeeded Commodus as emperor in 193 AD. He was African, a native of Leptis Magna in modern-day Libya. During his 18-year rule, he adorned his hometown with lavish buildings. And brought some of its magic back to Rome. Severus and his wife Julia Domna were both deeply superstitious. He was devoted to an Egyptian mystery cult. She worshipped a Syrian sun god. Romans had no problem with the couple's exotic beliefs. The vast Roman Empire had a long history of religious tolerance. They lived in a pagan world that welcomed virtually everyone's gods. All that was asked of foreign religions was that they respect the cult of Rome by making annual sacrifices to the emperor. It was a policy intended to secure some control in a world of extreme religious diversity. There were as many cults in Rome as there were provinces in the empire. But by the 3rd century AD, religious diversity was leading to chaos. Romans turned to one cult in particular. A cult whose message was destined to change the empire and the world forever. Christianity's dramatic rise to power in the Roman world would change everything. A cult based on the suffering of one man was set to challenge the integrity of an entire empire. Christianity's most revolutionary ideal was spiritual equality. It was a direct threat to Rome's belief in hierarchy and social division.
They couldn't absorb Christianity because it will not allow you to sacrifice to other gods. In particular, Christianity involves the rejection of the cult of the emperor. And because the cult of the emperor is virtually the only way in which the whole empire can express its unity, this is very disruptive.
A protest movement was quickly gaining momentum. Its very popularity posed a fundamental threat to the Roman way of life. By the middle of the 3rd century AD, Rome was consumed by doubt. As chaos and confusion racked the empire, everyone began questioning the benefits of Roman rule. Between 235 and 270 AD, more than 30 Roman generals proclaimed themselves emperor. Civil war broke out as legion fought legion, each trying to install its general as emperor. Anarchy grew.